On behalf of the Monument Trust, the Wall-Beating Charity is honoured to accept this award from the International Juvenile Justice Observatory for Monument's work with young people at risk in and around the justice system in Great Britain for over 50 years. Thank you. My name is Mark Woodruff, and my colleagues and I pursued that work on behalf of the trustees for over 20 of those years. The Monument Trust was founded in 1965 by Simon Sainsbury and Stuart Grimshaw as a grant-making foundation. And from the beginning, the concern was to put something back into society. From the preservation and enhancement of the arts and heritage for the benefit of all, for which the Monument Trust became most well known, to health and health research, and also to our social renewal. In 2018, 12 years after Simon died, it awarded its last grants. And amid the enduring contributions that the trustees wished to see left behind, the most tangible being in arts and heritage and health, the trustees asked, what of Monument's work with people, those on the edges, especially the prospects for young people at risk? For Simon, Stuart and their fellow trustees had always wanted to see a fair chance for those in Britain's disadvantaged communities, for the homeless and those who fall on the wrong side of the law, with better opportunities for the young from the outset, instead of the dead ends that might otherwise lie ahead for them. Yet after the Home Secretary in the government in 1993 declared prison works, promoting incarceration as the remedy for crime, social breakdown, violence and the illegal drugs industry and the misery it spawns, it soon became clear that short, sharp shocks of retribution to get people off the streets, as it was put, mostly aimed at young people, were not working but making problems worse and magnifying their harmful effect after release. Numbers in prison steadily rose, and without adequate investment in treatment, education and training, many were released in a worsened position than before. They reoffended and went back inside, further overstretching what solutions were available. So the Monument Trust strongly focused on the problem of prison, especially youth prison, the corrosion of communities caused by the offending within them, and the lifelong damage caused by putting young people in custody because no more constructive alternative was available at the time. Thus the trustees made it their explicit aim to keep young people out of prison, and if they do err, to ensure that they never go back. For the next 20 years and more, Monument stepped up our investment in scores of projects, programs and research in action to improve on what prisons can do positively and how to put things right after, and even better, to reanimate the older wisdom of prevention, and motivating people all the way through with a higher vision of how their future could turn out to be. In the early 2000s, Monument was devoting a quarter of its resources each year to breaking the cycle, from youth projects in communities, tackling youth homelessness and poor mental well-being, arts and music to engage young people instead of gangs and violence, and on to training and fulfilling employment. Time and again we found that those with no positive idea of themselves gained a sense of who they could become through the charities and schemes we worked with, because a prison worker, an officer, a volunteer, a teacher, a therapist, a coach or an artist showed some belief in them, often for the first time in their lives. We found that cooking and baking, arts, music and performance, growing vegetables and flowers, setting up a small enterprise, inspirational work and training like manufacturing spectacles, stonemasonry or printing and design, also reconnecting estranged families and friends as well as making amends to a victim, any of these would demonstrate to people where they could truly belong in life and what they could achieve and then go on to contribute. In Britain, we are still too good at convicting people and locking them away rather than addressing the underlying problems that they face in themselves and which then take their toll on others manifesting in crime. But the trajectory of rates of reoffending has been downward for a long time, and we are thankful by investment in such good examples as I've mentioned to have played our part in some way. We do believe that serious crime requires the punishment of liberty withdrawn, but we also know that there are better ways than custody of dealing with most traumatised young people, not forgetting women offenders and those whose lives and health were wrecked by drugs. We know that, for instance, triaging offenders to ascertain the true level of the harm that they pose, and deploying community police work in order to prevent and resolve trouble before it gets out of hand. Also, putting individuals onto the education, training or other intervention that they had been missing. And confronting young people not with retribution but by winning over their hearts and minds, or using the tools of reparation and restorative justice, can not only solve the problems and stop them, but significantly improve a community's strength and future prosperity. Nowadays we see that the government's justice services are more willing than ever to work with charities and community organisations in wider society so as to absorb their learning about human nature and how to deal with humanity and make it humane, as well as capture that connection between people within communities that is vital to cementing someone's desistance from offending as they leave a traumatised and traumatising past forever. 5 years ago, Monument realised that while its arts, heritage and health work would endure when it closed down, the powerful memory we held alongside so many charities around our foundational aim of social renewal for people, especially those in the justice services, might fade away. So we invited 8 bodies working at the decisive points along the potential journey of an offender to form a core Monument Fellowship, a 5-year funded programme to concert all our efforts and values around a shared manifesto of aims and tested practical solutions for people, especially the young, in the world of the justice system. This work is being curated by the wool-beading charity now that Monument has closed, so that what it always stood for can still be persuasive. It covers restorative justice in the hands of police, schools, youth services, and for crime victims. Then there are problem-solving courts to address the underlying causes and effects of offending, relying less on counterproductive short sentences and investing in people's futures instead. Then there is a nurturing and loving re-upbringing approach to young people in custody and the care system, people who are far too represented in the adult prison population, yet showing we can achieve very clear reduced reoffending rates, high school achievement and future entry into motivating jobs. Then there is training and advice for prison governors and staff to rethink how they can operate their prisons better and harness the potential already embedded in community organisations and bringing it inside to help with the work of resettlement. Also, there is investing in the strong network of civil society organisations working in prison and resettlement after release towards the permanent rehabilitation of ex-offenders. Add to that the dedicated network of charities promoting arts and creativity among those in custody or at risk, because Monument always believed that arts elevate the spirit and the mind and can transform people's sense of who they aspire to be. And finally, there's work to build partnerships and new services to give a local society in a community a vision of what it looks like when it's fixed, showing a young person at risk's stake in it, beyond crime and violence, to the exclusion of none. We wanted to distill the cumulative wisdom from the charities and services that we have worked with over the years together with the crucial lived experience of those who've gone through the system, could we provide a comprehensive response to public anxiety about offending, the justice system, and the offenders caught up in it? Each year, we have been posing ourselves and our networks an open question and then assembled the diverse and compelling responses in a book. We've looked at learning and education, reducing violence and danger for young people, what form a justice system should take after an offence has been committed, and if there is any place for hope and compassion in it. Next year's book, we shall be asking, what could fair justice look like for children and young people? This unique series of essays and thoughts, capturing the experience and truth of those with whom we have worked directly and indirectly, will form a standing, lively account of what we always wanted to see happen with and for young people across more than 5 decades. We are very moved that the International Juvenile Justice Observatory has noticed what the Monument Trust was seeking to do, and that it now encourages our Monument Fellowship and the future work of youth justice charities here in this country. Because every effort counts. 13 years ago, I went to a prison to see a Shakespeare play performed by a mix of professional actors and prisoners. It was a revelation. When it was over and prisoners were led back to their cells, the audience gasped when the 2 lead actors joined them. They were prisoners. In an instant, we realised the enervating effect on prisoners, families, normality, not forgetting the victims of their harmful crimes, and when human potential is wasted. Nowadays, both those amazing actors who were once prisoners work in theatre and drama education as professionals, using performance and imagination for keeping young people away from gangs, crime and violence. Recently, 2 of those young people began careers in the TV and film industry. And these glasses were made for me in about 40 minutes in a prison by a prisoner who is now working as a highly skilled optician. We speak of recycling. Here is recycling justice from wasted lives to exciting possibilities. These are just 2 examples of why, for 50 years, it was worth trying to keep young people out of prison and making sure they never go back.